Good morning, Opening Pathways viewers. It is great to be with you again. This is Tom LeNoble. I'm excited about my guest today. Adam Roach is the founder of I Love Coaching. Now, you all know when I think about coaching, and to be able to talk to somebody who has a business named I Love Coaching. In fact, Adam and I just had to stop ourselves because we would have talked all day and forgot we were supposed to do a podcast for you, my viewers. So here we are. Adam, welcome to Opening Pathways.
Tom, thank you for having me on the show. I'm super excited to continue our conversation because we were having a really in-depth conversation there. I'm glad you pressed record so we can give this to your listeners.
We might have to do a part 2 and share it all with them. Who knows? Yeah. So I want to start and I want to learn a little bit about I Love Coaching. And what I also want to know is what sparked your idea to start it?
Yeah, great question. So I'll give the abbreviated version, Tom, because the I Love Coaching community, which is what it is, we are a community of coaches. So no one works for I Love Coaching. I don't have coaches. We're not a dependent model as it relates to me giving leads to the coaches. We are a community of coaches. And this was actually birthed after the passing of my father, who had been an Olympic swim coach. And Tom, the idea around the community came from when I was giving his eulogy. And I looked out over the room and I could see all the coaches he had impacted, all the athletes he had impacted, all the parents that were there of the athletes that he had impacted. And at the time, I owned real estate franchises and I felt called, right? I really felt called to serve people who were helping other people. Now, of course, in the real estate space, those were people helping other people. Though there was something about the coaching lane that I felt really called to do. And I use the word called because there's a whole spiritual side to that conversation, though I'll keep it simple. And I call it my beach chair moment. And my beach chair moment was after my father had passed in 2019, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. So I came back here by myself, went to the beach. I'm a very spiritual guy. So I took my Bible, I took a journal, I took some sunscreen for my bald head and some water, of course. And I sat there and I journaled, I prayed, I mourned. And I kept asking for clarity, kept asking for direction, kept asking for, because my father had been my coach my entire life. And it wasn't as he was the only coach I'd ever had, but he was that central piece that if I could describe it in a circle, when he passed, I felt like the circle was incomplete. So that's why he was so impactful to me. And so I kept hearing, surround yourself with different people, surround yourself with better. Right? I didn't know what that meant. So I took it to my pastor and I said, hey, this is what I'm hearing. You told me that if I'm think I'm having a conversation with God, I'm to lean it up on scripture and tell me. And so I keep it right here, Tom. Proverbs 13:20, it says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Okay, so what I heard, what I felt there, what I was really being drawn towards was serving coaches. And so I walked into my franchises that I owned 3 of them, and I backed up the meetings that day, all in one day. And I said, I have an easy conversation here. Either I'm supposed to buy you all out or you're supposed to buy me out. And I know I own the majority of these companies. So at the end of the day, it's okay. And I'm actually going to let you guys decide who's going to buy out who. I'm okay. I'll find the resources to buy you out if that's what you decide. But I'm being called to be around different people. And so they all came back, Tom, and they said, hey, no problem. We'll buy you out. It's a great exit. Wow. Nearly a 7-figure exit. And that's when in 2019, I leaned into the space of serving coaches. And I can honestly say now, 6 years later, nearly 7 years later, we have been able and blessed to have served coaches on 4 continents now. 4 continents. Yes. That's it. That's the I Love Coaching story.
Mm-hmm. I love the story, and it's just terrific. By the time we're finished here, I'll have a name of a book about that story if you haven't written it already. Tell me this. What was the moment on this journey with this new adventure you've been on that you said to yourself, yes, this is my path?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I had to go back and I'll use the word surrender because I didn't have a plan, Tom. I did not have a plan. The buyout was great, but it wasn't like the buyout was all coming to me. I had an ex-wife, right? And there was an agreement when we got divorced through the court system that she was owed a certain amount of money. I had a SaaS model that I was running at the same time too, so a large there was a large agreement there, I'll just say. So stepping into this, surrendering to this was very scary. And I mean, the people that were around me, like, what are you doing? Why are you even doing this? And I said, I know, but I don't know. So what I had to realize though, Tom, is that those businesses I was allowing to establish the identity of who I was through those businesses. And that was not correct. Right. So when did I know? When did I really understand? When I let go of that identity, right? When I
Mhm.
let go of the identity that I was a recruiting king, that I was a real estate master, that I understood these franchise models, which again, were very successful, but there was something that felt off while I was in that, I'll call it the container, right? There's something felt off and I could feel it, but I didn't know what it was because I was having success. I was like, what is this that I'm feeling? I can honestly tell you now from without sounding cliche, I've never worked a day since 2019. Never worked a day since 2019 when they decided to buy me out and I stepped in this lane of serving coaches. I've never worked a day. So that is the identity that I have now lives in the vision statement for our community. And that is to empower coaches, not Adam Roach. The entire community empowers each other. So to empower coaches to change and serve 100 million people through our real coach method. And don't ask me how we're going to get to 100 million, Tom, but that's something that I'm just literally aligning myself to a vision that lives in a space that I was called to and have never worked a day in my life.
Love, love, love the story. So tell me this.
Yes.
What belief about yourself have you outgrown in the past year?
In the past year, what belief about myself that I'm in control, that I need to control? Um, I'll give you an example. About 2 years ago, I hired a nutritionalist, a fitness coach. So I'll be 50 years old next February, so 2027. And I had my father passed in his 60s. He passed from Parkinson's related issues. And he was an athlete. He was training for an Ironman of all things, and his times were getting slower. And he called me one day and says, "Hey, my times are getting slower." I said, "Dad, kind of tongue in cheek, you're getting older. That's why your times are getting slow." He goes, "No, no, something's off. I need to figure this out." And he was very, very time sensitive when it came to training. And so he went to the doctor of all things, Tom, and he said, "Something's wrong and I need you to figure it out and fix it." And they came back and they said, "Hey, we can't fix this, but here we can tell you why your times are getting slower. You have Parkinson's and your left foot is dragging when you're running."
Wow.
Whoa. Okay. So when I hired this nutritionist, because I wanted to beat my father, right? That was the one thing I told my dad on his deathbed is that I will beat him in age in life. So I hired a nutritionist and I went all in the health space. And here's what he said to me, because I love your question. This is going to come to the answer. He said, "Okay, Adam, we're going to start with a 16-day cleanse." Great. Excited about this 16-day cleanse. He showed me the whole thing and it was fantastic. It had chicken on it. It had steak on it. I mean, it was really good, Tom. And there was one thing on there that I did not consume, and that was coffee. And it wasn't because I felt negatively about coffee. I just didn't drink coffee because I didn't like the taste of it. And I didn't need any more caffeine because I go a million miles a minute as it is. Though in the same breath, he was like, "Okay, coffee's on the menu." And there were 3 cups of coffee a day, Tom. And I said, okay, well, let me ask you this. What can I substitute for coffee? And he says, let me ask you a question. Are you going to do the cleanse? And I said, yes. And he said, well, then I said, but I'm not going to drink coffee. Can I put tea? He said, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you going to do the cleanse? And I said, yes. I'm going to ask you one more time. Can I substitute it? He says, no, you cannot. And he says, if you don't drink the coffee, you're not going to do the cleanse because the coffee is part of the cleanse. And this is what he said. He said, Adam, you got to realize that your present self is so controlled by your past self, your thoughts, your beliefs, your behavior. And he says,
Yes.
if you're not focused on your future self, you want to be 50 and you want to be in the best shape, you want to look the best, you want to feel the best, you want your blood work to be right, you're going to drink the coffee and you're going to kill, he said, that past version of yourself. I was like, whoa, okay, that's good language. Now, I did ask him if I could have non-decaf or if I could have decaf, and he said, yeah, that's fine. The point of saying that story, though, Tom, is your question was, what have I had to release? And that is control, right? If we want our future self to show up, our past self is so based on what did we experience? What were the beliefs? What were the patterns of thinking that control our present self? And for me, that was I wanted to control everything. I wanted to be able to say yes. I wanted to be able to say no. But there are certain times that if we want to achieve this future version of ourselves, we've got to let go of control and we've got to let go of some of those things. Or as Alan says, you got to kill that past version of yourself so that your future version of yourself can show up today.
This is such great wisdom, Adam. First of all, I identify with this idea of wanting to outlive your father's age. I had something similar. I've had two life-threatening illnesses and given 6 months to live 3 times. And during that, my brother died very young, and I made a commitment to myself that I would outlive my parents, and I did. And my dad lived a long time, and of the many achievements, it was so important to me to do that. And it wasn't just about me. I wanted to do it for them because they had lost their other son. They were fearful that they were going to lose this son, and I wanted to be there, and I was with both of them as they took their last breath and made their transition. And I'm so rewarded by it. And the other thing I love about what you're saying is, when we're trying to become something, just the words denote that you need to shed something. Just like the snake sheds the skin, we could go through many other analogies. If you're going to become something new, it requires a shift and a release of some sort. I love this wisdom you're sharing with us today. Where has life asked you to slow down recently, and what did you hear?
Great question. Well, we can stay in the health space because being on the go, right? My wife and I say that we are a highly calendared family. And we are. We have a house in Lexington, Kentucky, because we have businesses up there. We have a house here in Charleston, South Carolina. We have 2 kids that play international tennis. We are constantly on the go. Though I had to, in the health space, with the help of Coach Allen, really understand that I needed to slow down in what I was eating. Right? I needed to slow down in the food space. And what I mean by that is when you're on the go and you don't prepare and you're not planning, you just grab junk, right? We grab junk. We grab junk as it relates to food that we're consuming, the liquids that we're drinking. It is junk. And so this actually helped me. He gave me the menu. I had to get intentional with the preparation of that food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Tom. And so it actually forced me to slow down in that space. But watch this. It allowed me to speed up everywhere else because people get decision fatigue. And decision fatigue, if you can remove one thing away from your world that you don't have to make another decision on, it helps you in the other areas, whatever those other areas are. Whether in my case, it's serving the coaches, whether in my case, it's attracting more coaches. So in the health space and the food space, I know exactly what I'm eating. I'll take it with me. I take my oatmeal, my cinnamon, and my syrup, which I have for breakfast every single morning, plus my egg and my egg whites. I take that with me everywhere. When we went to Kentucky, I knew that I was out of that stuff. And so instead of having to go to the store, I brought my stuff from South Carolina up to
Love it.
Kentucky in my food bag, right? And I know for lunch is zucchini, and it is rice, white rice, and salmon. What's for dinner? White rice, probably some green vegetable, and chicken, right? On Fridays, I'm going to have a steak. Guess what? I don't even have to think about it. The only thing that I have to think about is making sure I have enough of it, right?
It's the best. I love
Mhm.
this. And there's so much that you gave yourself in doing that. Not only I'm sure you feel healthier, you are
Oh, yeah.
healthier.
Yes.
And this whole idea of not the decisions that we make, I believe it or not, weighed 300 pounds when I was a kid.
Wow. Okay.
And I tried every diet known to man until I realized diets don't work. It's a real simple equation. I haven't eaten meat in 52 years this year.
Wow, Tom.
And I, like you, I prepare and think about it. And as a result, what I eat is very, very simple,
Mhm.
a little bit boring. And I love this no decision because I had a shirt on the other day that was not black. And somebody said to me, "Oh, you're wearing a color." And I had to think to myself for a moment about, I think I wear a collar every now and then, but I realize a lot on here on Zoom, I always have a black t-shirt on. And
Mhm.
so they said to me, why? And I said, because I don't have to think about it. I said, in fact, I realize everybody probably thinks I'm wearing the same t-shirt because I have this t-shirt that has Takashi Murakami and Billie Eilish on it. And someone gave me 10 of them once upon a time because they loved both of those artists. And so I don't have the same t-shirt. I know people think I'm wearing the same t-shirt. I actually have 10 of them. And
Uh-huh.
it just is no decision, right? And I have freed up my mind as you're speaking to do other things and there's enough decisions to make each day without having to think about something like that, save it for a special occasion or something like that. So I love you're sharing a lot of wisdom with us today, which I also love. Tell me this. Um, what have been your personal values that have guided you from the start? And which one has deepened recently?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna pull something up here real quick on my computer, and I'm gonna share this story. So we have in our Roach family, last name is Roach. We went through and through a coach that was coaching us, and I hire coaches for myself all over the place, whether that is in the financial space and relationship space, in health space, clearly. And at this time, this was a coach that was in the, I'll just say visionary, but the planning stage, right? And so I want to share this, and this is what I keep in front of me, and it's in our house as well. And it's our family vision and money philosophies. So the idea of the money philosophies, because I want to create an environment. My intention was to create an environment for my kids and my family that we are establishing who we can become every single day with values and actions. And so our money philosophy goes like this. Now, this is written for my family. Money is simply a byproduct produced by our faith, our love, and gratitude for everyone around us. Investing is a vehicle for establishing monthly and annual cash flows that are 100% greater than our monthly and annual expenses. Wealth is not measured in wealth is not measured in money by our family. It's measured by our family experiences that create lasting and epic family tales. Giving is part of our core values. This is an action which is always at the forefront of our minds. Giving is not limited to only money. It will include time, resources, energy, love, knowledge, and ideas. And then we have our vision statement. To become a family that is deep rooted in faith, love, trust, and communication. We will accomplish this by consistently living by and being 100% committed to our family values, which are faith, kindness, commitment, giving, and fun. And each one of us got to define one of those. So which one, you asked the question, which value have we really leaned into, or which value has meant the most to me over this past season, if you will? And that's faith, right? We've really leaned into our faith values space. My son, who is now 17, last year, and probably around April or May, about a year ago, he shoots me a text. He's going to a tournament. And again, 17-year-old boy, 16 at the time, is how he always starts his text to me. He says, "Yo, Dad." And so I replied back, "Yes, son." And he says, "Dad, I forgot to tell you before I left." And it's like, "Okay, what did you forget to tell me?" And he said, "I'm ready to give my life to Christ, and I'm ready to be baptized." I was like, "Wow, okay, son." And he's texting me and he says, I said, "That's fantastic news. I can't wait to share that with your mom, and we're gonna have the biggest party in Charleston, period. This is gonna be great. And we're gonna make this a big deal because I want you to understand what this really means." And then he texted me back. And Tom, this was, again, I know what I was doing at 16, and it sure wasn't asking my dad this next question.
Right, right.
And he said, "Dad, were you baptized?" And I said, "Well, I was raised Catholic, so I'm pretty sure I was baptized when I was a baby, and don't really know much about it, but that was part of our ritualistic religion back then." And he said, "Have you ever considered getting baptized as an adult?" And I said, "Yes." And he said the most amazing question to me, Tom, that I'll never forget. He says, "Will you do it with me?" And I said, "Absolutely, son. Absolutely." So we had the best July 27th in 2026 because we both got baptized in the beach here in Charleston, or at the beach. And we had probably, I don't know, 50, 60 people there. Then they all came over and we had a big celebration at the house. Though the question, which value, has been faith, because the neat part about that is there they can learn to release control, right? The last question you asked me is what have I released? And that is control. When you have faith, in my family, it is allowing you to kind of relinquish control, knowing that you still have free will, but relinquishing control to say, "Okay, fine, let me pause for a second, let me consult, let me pray, let me do whatever I need to do before I take an action step, and align this step with being the best version of myself so that I can move forward in whatever it is I'm doing." So we've really leaned into faith here in the last year or so, Tom.
Of this story.
Again, simply because my job is to create these kids as the best adults possible. And as we were talking before the podcast started, of independence, right? And it's not without fault here. We're definitely failing forward, that is for sure. Though that is one that again, these live in our families upstairs of our house. And when there's ever a conflict, my wife and I have said, this is what we're going to do. When there's a conflict, whether it's me and you, whether it's us and the kids, whether it's all four of us, we're going to sit up there underneath the framed money philosophies and family values, and we're going to have the conversation. We're going to duke it out. We might yell and scream, but we will look at that and say, are we in alignment or are we out of alignment? And that's it.
Called foundation.
That's right.
Foundation. Great story. So tell me this, Adam, how has your relationship with risk changed as your responsibility has grown?
I've always been a very risk tolerant person. I'm okay with risk, though it's more calculated now, right? It's definitely more calculated risk. I used to have a great head of hair like yours, but man, I had a lot of risk in my life, and now I have no hair. No, I'm kidding. At the end of the day, I think risk is good if it's calculated. For example, in our coach community, we offer 3 different approaches. And these were, like, for example, if anyone listening is in that coach space, but maybe they don't feel like they're stepping into the coach space the right way, we have a simple little gosh, what do you want to call it? Instructions on get paid to coach, right? It's very simple, but that was risk. That was a risk to create that because I'm not the master of the coaching space, right? There's so many people out there who are amazing, such as yourself, to help coaches. But that was a calculated risk to us create an asset, if you will, to help other people. And people have loved it. The other aspect of risk is take my beach chair moment. This has been a risk in building this community. But again, because I stepped into it in faith, because I stepped into it with the feeling that I knew I was being called to this, that I would have failures, I would fall down, but as long as I was moving in the right direction, which was to serve other people at the highest level, then it would work. I would be rewarded. Others would be rewarded. And so calculated risk has become something that my team and I talk about all the time. What is the reward, or we call it the payoff to this risk, right? Let's define this payoff. Not only say ROI, because it's the payoff. Two things that we coach coaches on really well is identifying their payoff. Because I don't believe that anybody can sell anybody anything. Why? Because a buyer will only buy because they want to. So if you have a payoff that others want, and you can invite them to it versus sell them, not convince them, but invite them to it, that is a good payoff, and that is a good risk to take. And that has just been so, I've got an amazing, just blessed to have such an amazing team around me that, you know what? Nothing ever feels risky anymore. We don't maybe know what if a payoff is going to come to life, but we know it's a calculated risk that it is in alignment with where we are growing.
Yes, yes. I'm a big, big believer in risk. A lot of my work is around risk resilience and reinvention, and I think the risk of not taking a risk is that you will stay the same.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell me this: how does Adam know when to pivot or push through?
Great question. Well, the old answer would be everything would just be pushed through, right? Everything, we would just go push through, we'd run through a brick wall, we'd get it all done. Though that was when the identity was about myself, right? That's when I was making things about me. That was when I was really focusing on success versus significance. So in the significance space, and that's been something John Maxwell has really beat into my head here as a dear friend and mentor, is success and significance go hand in hand. And when you are having success, significance will follow. When you're having significance, success will follow. And so when I look at the significance space, if I feel that it is more self-serving and not serving others, we'll make a pivot. Right? So I'll give an example. I used to run a summit here in Charleston. It was an amazing summit. We call it the Whole Life Business Planning Summit. And I brought in speakers from across the nation who had specialized in their space. And we call it health, wealth, relationship, spirituality, giving, leadership. Those were our 6 categories. We, at one point in time, Make-A-Wish was the giving space. And I think it was like a 15-minute raise. We raised nearly $100,000, which I believe, gosh, let's see, that was, I think, $7,500 a wish can be granted. So whatever that math is, that's how many wishes we got to grant, right? But I had to make a pivot. We would have 300 and 400 people come to that. And I had to make a pivot, though. The pivot was because I was having success creating notoriety for myself. Adam Roach is throwing these amazing events. John Maxwell is coming. Damon West is coming. Amazing speakers are coming to these things. CEOs are speaking up on stage, and the people in the audience is getting so much value. But I did it because it was creating notoriety for me. And sure, there was some significance to the audience members, but what I realized was I took a break last year from it after running it for 7 years. because I wanted to focus on 100% significance to the attendees, right? Sure, in the past they got it. They were having a good time, but I was doing it because it filled me up. And so going forward, what we are going to do is still have summits. We're still going to call them whole life planning summits. But they're only going to be a very small selected group of people. It's not going to be a massive event, because I was making that about me. And at the end of the day, we're pivoting to this model so that we can actually serve the people in our community. So we can actually serve our true core, we'll just say avatar in this space, because that is what I'm being called to do, is serve them, not this broad audience of who I was having there. And my name doesn't have to be anywhere. So that's how I pivot, right? That's how I look at certain things is where am I having success and no significance? And where is significance but no success showing up? And how do I create both of those so that they're in alignment?
Excellent. Tell me this, how do you recognize when fear is information and not a stop sign?
Here's what I look at fear, though. Let's identify fear. So I was in South Dakota one time as a college kid, and we just went there we wanted to go see the Mount Rushmore, and I'm pretty sure we were probably chasing some girls at the same time. And we were in the woods, and someone was like, "Do you want to go see this incredible shooting star night or something like that?" I was like, "Sure, let's go do it." And Tom, we didn't have any flashlights, and that was before cell phones were there, and there was no watches to turn your flashlight on or anything, and so it was really, really dark. I mean, so dark in these woods, the people that we were with knew where they were going. We couldn't see our hands in front of our face. I mean, it was that dark. To me, that's fear, right? Fear is not knowing what you can't see around you, right? And so when you have that type of fear, you need to be very, very aware of the steps you're making. You need to be very cognizant of the sounds that you're hearing, right? If you're in the woods, it's fight or flight type thing. And so that's the way I look at fear. If I'm making a business decision and I've prayed on it, I have consulted with people, I have made the right approach to a decision, there's not a lot of fear anymore. Right? That there's really not, because again, if it is an alignment with who I am, if it's an alignment with who I serve, I could have questions that are unanswered of the outcome, but that's not fear to me, right? That's definitely not fear. Fear is an unknown. Fear is I've never been there before. Fear is I can't see my hand in front of my face, and it scares me because this is a life or death situation. I could step off a cliff and die. That's fear, right? Fear of making decisions when they're calculated, to your last question or a couple questions ago, when they're calculated, when you're not making snap decisions. My team calls me a fire ready aim. And that's true, because I like to go fast. I like to create new things for people and add even more value. But I know it's in alignment with what I'm going to do. There are times when Tom, those decisions do not produce the outcome that I want, but I did not have fear making them because they are in alignment with where I'm supposed to serve.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know I've learned over my life that fear is, I think, the same about the dreaded imposter syndrome that we all talk about and so many books have been written about, but I think both of them are simply an opportunity for growth.
Well, imposter syndrome to me is it's your environment telling you to step up, right? If you're feeling imposter syndrome, I had a coach, Dan Martell, coached me personally for a while, and he asked me the question, Adam, how frequently is imposter syndrome in your day-to-day operations? Like, oh man, not much at all. And he's like, well, then you're not growing fast enough. You're not doing things big enough. He says, because if imposter syndrome is not there, then you're staying safe. Because I want imposter syndrome there. I want you to step on stage and say, holy cow, this audience in front of me, this is going to be a heavy lift. I want you in that space. Yeah, it's totally healthy, because that is sharing with you where you need to get better.
It requires us to stretch and if we want to be something beyond what we are, that requires a stretch. Tell me this, Adam. What boundary has become essential to your sustainability?
Great question. Well, there's a couple that come to mind. Well, I'm very time oriented, right? Kind of like what I shared about my father, but his was more educate or a more athletic approach. I'm very time oriented with my calendar. There aren't many things that get on my calendar that are waste of time. There aren't many things on my calendar that are 80%, if we will, meaning that if you have the Pareto's principle of 80-20, 20% is going to yield you 80% of your results and vice versa. A lot of my calendar, the majority of my calendar is 20% activities, right? That are going to yield me 80% of my time. And my team knows this, that my calendar is the most highly protected thing that I have outside of protecting my family. Because my time, I can't give back. We've all heard that many different ways. The time that you commit to doing something, this podcast was important to me. When we had our intro call, I connected with you and I knew that you were someone that I wanted to have in my ecosystem, one way, shape, or form. So this podcast was important to me to have on the calendar. The boundaries that I've established with my gotta minutes, they don't live in my world, right? No, when coaches in our community will text me, and the reply that I will give them back is ask the community first, right? You're not getting on my calendar by accident. My time is very valuable to the priorities that I have in my life. And that is a boundary that I've worked with for many, probably at least, let's see, where we're at 2026, probably since 2010 is when I really established this. No one reaches out to me on the weekends, Tom. Nobody. And I've probably had that for the last 10 years. Nobody.
Yeah.
They,
You know,
they
Adam, this makes me think of the wisdom you're sharing is so many people talk about time and if I only had more time, if whatever about time, and we all get the same amount of time. It's how we choose to spend it and who we allow to influence how we spend our time. And you've just shared something that I think many people could learn about, especially today when there's so many competing things for our time, of that we are the ones that own that because we all get the same thing. It's up to you how you choose to structure and use it, and what boundaries you put in to make sure you're sticking to it. It's
well,
been a big lesson of mine.
Tom, what I could share with your listeners that I had a coach have me do one time was this was for 2 weeks, but I would challenge the listeners maybe to do it for 2 days. Is every 15 minutes log what you're doing. Every 15 minutes. And it is mind blowing how much time we actually waste. How much time we actually waste. And if we do that and we see the time that we are wasting with water cooler conversations, I mean, you got to go to the bathroom, but sometimes you go to the bathroom and you stop and have a conversation, or you're driving or you're scrolling or whatever it is. Write it down for every 15 minutes. What are you doing? And you'll see how you are not truly protecting your time.
Yes, yes, yes. The other thing, viewers, that I hope you've heard, because a number of coaches listen to this, when people ask me about coaching, getting a coach, finding the right coach. One thing you've heard today, and you hear it from me, is true coaches, people that believe and know what coaching is all about, have coaches. When you find a person that's a coach and you ask the question about their coaches and they don't have an answer for that, that's a big thing to look at and dig deeper. Because if nothing else, remember this: dentists don't fill their own cavities.
Very true.
So tell me this, I'm really interested to know, what does renewal look like for you, Adam? Beyond I take a day off or I rest, what is renewal about for Adam?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm going to change the word a little bit and I'm going to call it restore. Right. So restore, we got another beach chair moment here, Tom. And I'll say this real quick. My wife, ironically, was at the beach. She needed a break. She was one of those days where she had had enough throughout the week and was like to her assistant, take everything off my calendar tomorrow. I need time. And while she was sitting there, again, highly spiritual, was reading, was probably praying, was journaling, she felt it on her heart to write a book. And she doesn't use this word, renew, or in this case, restore. But she came home and she's like, honey, God put it on my heart to write a book. I was like, wow, okay, write it. And I said, what's the title? And she says, I think it's supposed to be Restore. And so it is a 90-day daily reader of restoring yourself through, and it's written in business language, but also with scripture, and of the way that she has restored herself in a way. And she wrote it in a 90-day reader. And now this was really fun. So she took the time and went through the process of publishing it. Well, had a publisher and had an editor and all that good stuff. And someone said, hey, maybe you should go for a list. And she said, well, what type of list are you talking about? And they were like, well, it's going to be paperback. It should be maybe USA Today bestseller list. And she go, I don't need to do that. And so they gave her some framework. And long story short, about 3 months ago, the book came out. It was released, and she was number 14 on the USA Today
That's so
bestseller list
awesome.
around how to restore. And here's the book right here. And the neat part about it is, for those that are on video, she says it's a 90 days of intentional living in life, faith, and business. And to answer the question, I just read my wife's book. I mean, literally, I just read my wife's book because it calms me down. It gives me direction. It's very, very simple. It's a page and a half a day. And I really love, so I've always had a morning walk. And I've been doing my morning walk for probably the last 6 years, 30 minutes a day. No podcast, no music, no nothing. And my doctors told me to do this because we were working on my parasympathetic nervous system and lowering cortisol and all those types of things. And he says, go for a walk. I said, go for a walk. Why would I go for a walk? He says, go for a level 2 walk and calm yourself down. I was like, that sounds like the most boring thing ever. Tom, I haven't missed a walk. I did it this morning, a 30-minute walk with nothing. I mean, I keep my phone on me, but I'll go for a 30-minute walk. And that is how I truly, from a mental, a physical, a spiritual, and emotional way, that I restore myself
I love this.
every day.
I do walks every day as well, Adam, and I love them. No music, no anything, just me and nature. And it is not only healthy for me, but it clears the cobwebs.
Yeah.
It's like we used to talk about, I think they do it on their own now, the defrags of computer. It's the defrag of my brain to get all those particles that are floating around to eliminate, calm down, or whatever they do. Tell me this, Adam, at this stage of your life, what does legacy mean to you?
Well, let's break down the word legacy first, right? Because you can't have a legacy without legs. John Maxwell taught me that a long time ago. So what do legs mean? Legacy is this is what's going to be written about you when you're gone, right? And what impact are you having? So what does legacy mean to me? It is empowering people right now. It is truly pouring into them so they can step into their true identity, so they can step into the empowerment space of other people. That's what I want people to know when I'm not here, is Adam Roach was a man that poured into other people to serve other people so they could go serve other people at a higher level. John Maxwell has a book called The 5 Levels of Leadership. And the 5th level of leadership is finding leaders who can turn other people into leaders.
Yes.
And that is truly what I want my legacy to be.
You're not a leader unless you develop people that create other leaders.
That's right.
Who create other leaders.
That's right.
Who create other leaders. I couldn't agree with that more. As we're winding down here, I have a question for you. If a much, much, much younger Adam was listening to this podcast, what would you tell him?
Not about you. It's not about you, boy. This world is not about you. It is about your ability to serve other people. It is about your ability to help and serve people at whatever level you can, that it's not about you. Get out of the way. Go surround yourself with better people tomorrow. Go audit the who's that you are around, because I believe, Tom, now that if I'm having a conversation with myself 20 years ago, I would say it's not about your why. It is about the who. Who are you surrounding yourself with, and who are you impacting that it serves them, not you?
So much wisdom in that. It fits right in alignment with my keynote and some work that I do called the philanthropic mindset, where people would come to me and say, well, Tom, when I have money, I want to be a philanthropist too. And it inspired me to share that your smile, a hello, sitting with someone in need is a philanthropic gesture. You don't need your name on a building to write a check or go to a gala to be a philanthropist. You just need to remember what you do with a philanthropic mindset. I think the difference is when we have expectations of something in return, then you've crossed over into something different
Yeah.
than philanthropic mindset. So, Adam, this has been a delight. I think you and I could go on forever, and maybe we will do a part two. Adam Roach, the founder of I Love Coaching Company, and I love Adam at this point. Adam, thank you for being on Opening Pathways today.
Tom,
Where
truly
can we
my
find you? Where can
Yeah,
we find
absolutely. So you can go to Adam R. Roach. That is my Instagram, Adam R. Roach, two R's there in the middle. Or you can go to ilovecoachingco.com. There is a CO there after I Love Coaching, so ilovecoachingco.com. And if you found anything here that was of value to you, just text me or DM me and say hi. Introduce yourself, and I would love to be able to serve you any way, shape, or form. If you go to I Love Coaching Co., we have many things that are coming up. If you're thinking about coaching or you're in the coaching space, we have, like I said, the asset called Get Paid to Coach. And then we also hold intensives. If you're interested in our community, you can check things out there around all of that. Though, Tom, that's it for me. They however I can serve them. If they DM me, I will do whatever I can to serve them because they came from you for sure.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Adam. I'm so grateful you were with us today. Thank you so much. And to my viewers, this is Tom LeNoble, and I'll see you next time.